at you while you sleep, holding you, lost inside every breath you breathe. I don't wanna live a day without you, I just wanna be the one that makes you happy.
Hey, well, I am just a little bit amazed and confused and perplexed and discombobulated. Is that the word? Or maybe it's decombobulated. I don't know. Anyway, this is what I think is just hysterical. You know, I put these little proofs up from godisimaginary.com and I have one that's like, ooh, 3 minutes and 58 seconds. Think about near-death experience, proof number 8. And it's like this short. And I'm talking like this because I'm just in a really weird mood. This is me in a weird mood, and I just woke up. So I'm in a weird mood, and I'm not really awake yet. So you're going to get all kinds of bizarreness going on. Think about near-death experience, 3 minutes, 58 seconds. Just basically says that we have, that science has shown that the whole experience, the whole phenomenon is brought about by the brain starving from oxygen. And holy shit, 500. Wait a minute, I have to reset this because I don't believe that this is true. I don't think that this count can be accurate. Let me go back now. It's saying that, you know, and I put this thing up May 10th, so it's just a mere, well, about a week ago now. 642 people have viewed this video. And not only that, but it has 11 likes and 10 dislikes. So 10, almost the same amount of people dislike this video as people like it. I find that really interesting. What I think that means is this is a subject that people get very worked up about. It's near and dear to their heart. The whole idea of near-death experience, proving that there's life after death, or disproving it because science, there's another explanation for it. Brain is starving for oxygen, chemical stuff going on. No, it can't be that. It must be God. It must be heaven. 642 people wanting to watch a 3 minute and 58 second video, and it's not even that impressive of a video. It's just me sitting there reading from a teleprompter an article that I didn't even write. And they're like, so I just think that that's fascinating. None of my other proofs that I've posted from that website have had nearly as much of a reaction as this one has, and I just think that's so peculiar. What's this one about that the other ones are not about? This one's about death. The other ones are about praying. Well, if you pray, the statistics show that it really doesn't do any good. No dislikes there. Or maybe one. No comments really too much, not very many comments. It's not that big of a deal. The whole thing about prayer not working isn't such a huge deal. My post about Jeannie Wiley, where I'm talking about how this little girl was imprisoned by her father in a room and tied to a potty chair, and she never learned to talk or socialize or even be a human being. She just basically grew up without any sensory input or guidance whatsoever, and God just sat there and let it happen and didn't do a thing to help her. I use that as a proof that God is imaginary too, because such an indifferent God, a God that is that indifferent and that uncaring about a little child, and it happens all the time. We hear about this all the time, little children being held prisoner and totally neglected so that it ruins their whole lives. Jeannie's life was ruined by this father. Jeannie's life never got fixed. And where was her loving Father in heaven who cares for little children? Where was he? Interestingly enough, not a single dislike on that video. And you know, I'm basically accusing God of being a jackass in that video. Not a single dislike there. But the near-death experience, 3 minutes and 58 seconds, that basically says that NDEs don't really don't prove anything. They don't prove that God exists or that there's a supernatural afterlife. It's just something that we can recreate in a lab, more or less. That one, boy, adamant opposition. People don't like that one. People don't like that one. That one hits close to home, which kind of reinforces my belief or my suspicion that the whole religion thing is mostly about fear of death and wanting a little insurance policy that says that when you die, you're not really going to die. It's not really going to be over. Or when a loved one dies, it's not really goodbye. You're not saying goodbye to this beloved person that you cherish with every fiber of your being. You are going to see them again one day because they were a Christian and you're a Christian, and there's your little insurance policy, and you need that. You need that to get through that person's death and losing that person. The belief that you're going to see them again, or the belief when you're lying there and it's you and you're slowly fading out. The belief that you're not really going to die. You don't want to, because you're so afraid of that. You don't want to cease to exist. So you need to have the hope that the whole life after death thing gives you. And people who come back from a death, people who die briefly and come back and say that they've had these phenomenons happen, that is your proof right there. That is your proof. And isn't it interesting that your Muslim person who has a near-death experience comes back and they'll say that they've seen Allah, they've seen Muhammad. You know, they will see what they believed in their life. That's what they'll see in their near-death experience. Or a Catholic who dies, in their near-death experience, they're going to see Mary. They're going to see Jesus and Mary and whatever, you know, that goes along with their beliefs. That's what they're going to see. And of course a Christian will see Jesus, you know, that's a given. It's just, I think it's interesting that the near-death experience is always about what that person believes in life. That's what they see in death. And I'm sorry, but the videos that you see on YouTube where the atheist is going, I saw Satan and I heard screams from hell and I actually felt the fire burning my flesh right off my bones. That's bullshit. I'm sorry. That's either some atheist who's out to get money or fame or just a lot of attention, or that's a theist bullshitting that they're an atheist. Oh, and then they went to hell and they realized that it's all true and it's all about promoting the religion. That's bullshit. So I don't believe in those videos. I think those videos are bullshit. I don't think that there's an atheist out there who's had a NDE and gone, oh, I was wrong. God does exist and hell is so real and I just naturally, you know, the other thing is, you never hear about a Christian who hears and sees hell, do you? But how many people say to a Christian who realizes that there isn't such a thing, who basically becomes an atheist? How many former Christians get to hear this? You weren't really a Christian. And yet not a single Christian who has died and gone to hell and come, or my dog wants to come in, so I'm going to let her in, and this will be a two-parter. What I was trying to say before is, apparently, according to the Christians who tell former Christians that they were never really Christians, apparently there's a phenomenon out there where Christians are walking around thinking that they're real Christians and living their lives for Jesus for a really long time, but they're not really Christians. They just don't know that they're not really Christians. And isn't it funny that not one of those kind of Christians have had a near-death experience where they see hell and Satan? Of all the Christians that you hear about that have had an NDE, not one of them has said, well, I saw hell and I saw Satan. They all see Jesus, or they all have the floating above the bed experience and looking down in the white tunnel, and nobody here, no Christian, whether they're really a Christian or not really a Christian, has reported that they've seen hell and fire and whatever. The only one that we get to hear about who's actually seen hell and Satan, that's the atheist who dies. Isn't that a coincidence? Isn't that just such a huge coincidence? So, as a former Christian, when I was a Christian, for the 35 years that I was a Christian, thinking foolishly that I was a Christian, if I had had a near-death experience, I would have seen fire and hell. And I would have woken up and I would have been very confused. Well, why did I see hell? I'm a Christian. Why did I see hell? You know? But I guess that never happens. That never happens to Christians like me who just think we're Christians. We never hear about that. We never have videos about that where a Christian is going, oh my gosh, I don't understand. I'm a Christian and I saw Satan. I don't understand. How come we never have those kind of videos? We only have the poor, repenting, scared to death atheists who saw hell. Oh, I must repent my ways. It's all real. I was wrong. I need to have Jesus. Oh no. Interesting. So, but then, that's the thing about the whole, you weren't really a Christian. It's like, if God really wants us to be saved so bad, why does he make being the way to become really a Christian, why is that so elusive? Why if you go to a Foursquare church, they'll tell you, well, you don't really have the Holy Spirit unless you speak in tongues. Or if you go to a Baptist church, they say, well, you're not really saved unless you're baptized as an adult in water. It's like there's all these different versions of how to be saved, and if you don't pick the right one, you're not really saved. It's like, okay, say a lady has this really amazingly shiny car, and she's just, and she's out there in the morning, and it's almost like the ritual she does. And her car isn't even brand new. It's kind of, the paint's kind of been dulled by the sun, so it's not exactly a pristine car anyway. But she has, and her neighbors are just so jealous because, she lives in a poor neighborhood, so they all have cars that don't look so good. But her car looks like it just rolled off the showroom floor. And she's out there and she's got her little bucket with soap. And she's got her little mitt. And she does this little thing with the mitt, washing the car. And she's got her hose. She doesn't even have a nozzle on her hose. She's not that rich. She can't afford a nozzle, so she's using her thumb, to get the spray to come faster. Spraying the car down. And of course she knows better than to do it in the sun, so it's shady, and so she doesn't usually use towel or anything. She just walks in the house, and this car is glowing. It's so beautiful. So one day one of her neighbors comes over and says, I am so jealous. What do you do? What is it that you use on your car to make it look like that? And she's like, well, I just use soap and water. I just use good old Ivory detergent that I wash my dishes in. That's all I use. I fill a bucket with hot water and lots of suds, and I just use that. There's no wax involved, and it's just good old soap and a little bit of swirling with this thing here. Oh, but you have to really want it. You have to really, really want your car to be shiny. That's the magical ingredient. You have to really, really want it. So neighbor goes home and she pulls her car out. She's all excited. My car's gonna be. So she makes sure she goes out and buys the right dishwasher, hand soap, whatever, washing dishes. She gets the same brand and everything. She fills up with hot water with the soap. She got all those suds. She's got the little fuzzy mitt. She goes out there and she even takes the nozzle off her hose because she has a nozzle and this neighbor doesn't. She wants to do it exactly right because she really wants her car to look good. And she's like doing the same thing as the neighbor, hardly any rubbing at all because this is all about wanting it. Spray. And she goes out and the car has streaks all over it. It looks horrible. There's patches where she missed, and it just looks horrible. So she's kind of pissed off, you know, because it took 5 minutes out of her day to do this, and she had more important things she could be doing. So she goes back to the neighbor, and she's like, I don't think you told me the secret. I think you're hiding something from me, because look at my car. My car looks like shit still. The neighbor's like, looks over at her car. Oh, I guess you just didn't want it enough. So that's kind of how it feels to a former Christian who's turned atheist, when some stupid Christian comes along. You weren't really a Christian. You didn't really want it. You didn't, I don't know, what the hell? How can you not be a real Christian if you really want it, and you say the prayer, and you know what you're doing? You're basically at the end of your rope in your life, and you're like, I can't do it. I can't do it on my own. I need you, Jesus. I need you to come into my heart. I need you to be my Lord and Savior. Please come into my heart. Please take over, because I obviously am a fuck up. I need you. You know what you're doing. You really and sincerely want that for yourself. And you ask that into your heart. And then you go for 35 years thinking you have a friend in Jesus. Thinking you have a friend that you can talk to and turn to and lean on. And then when things cross your path, come into your life that tell you that it was a delusion, and that it was all something that was made up, and like a placebo, you know, you believed in it. You believed it because that's how strong your mind is. But then you realize it's a lie. You realize where the religion comes from. You read certain passages in the Bible that you just can't get around. You cannot rationalize them away or justify God's actions, because they're just so heinous. And you realize you can't believe in this God anymore. Not only can't you believe in this God, but if it did exist, if it stopped, if it appeared magically in front of you right now, you still wouldn't want to follow it, because you've read about what it did in the Old Testament. You read about what it did, and how can you praise and cheer and support a God like that? You just can't do it anymore. You can't go back and be what you were before, because it doesn't make sense to you. If it exists, which you don't believe it does anymore, because enough evidence has made you realize this is such a man-made thing. But if it does exist, if it actually did manifest itself and appear in front of you, you're going to go, God, you're an asshole. No, I don't want to follow you. Get the fuck out of my house. You know, I would say the same thing to Hitler if Hitler decided to pay me a visit, as I would to God. And God is so much worse. So that's all. I just think it's interesting that the NDE video has so much response, and I kind of think it's sad too. I think it shows how much fear exists because of death. And you know why that fear is there? It has nothing to do with death being horrible. Death is just a bad thing that happens to everybody. It's horrible or it's not horrible. I really think that it's the fear that's horrible. The fear when you're in the middle of having a horrific car accident, or when you're in the middle of dying from cancer. The fear is horrible. I think death itself is just lights out, and you don't think about anything anymore. There's no more fear, there's no more pain, there's no more anything. It's just lights out. Same as when you have a major surgery and they knock you out for surgery. You lose all that time. You don't have any awareness at all. That's what death is. You just never come back from it. It's the fear that makes it horrible, and what Christianity does is it ramps up the fear. It adds things to death to make it even more scary. Oh, not only are you going to die, but after you die, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and you're going to suffer for eternity, fire and torture and all the bad agony, most horrific agonies that you can imagine. You're going to suffer for all eternity. Unless you believe what we do. And so people have an unnatural fear of death. Ever watch an animal that knows it's about to die? Ever watch a cat or a dog that's about to be euthanized, that's very ill or very hurt, and it knows it's about to die? Look into its eyes. What do you see? I've had several animals die, and I've been there for them. And you don't see fear. You don't see terror. You see peace. You see acceptance, you see peace, because that's what death is. Death is the natural conclusion. It's the natural turning of the page and the closing of a chapter. There's nothing supernatural about it. There's nothing that promises eventual paradise or torture if you say or do the wrong thing during your life. It's just death. It's as natural as birth, and it shouldn't be feared. Painful, scary things that happen before you die, yeah, that's not so good. It's probably pretty normal to fear that. I'm sure the reason a gazelle was running from a lion, it's not because it's afraid to die. It's afraid of being ripped apart while it's still alive. Nobody wants to go through pain and agony, and you run from it. But death itself is a natural, if anything, it's an escape from the fear and the pain. It's an escape from the bad that comes from dying. Dying is what we fear. Dying, fearing the pain and suffering of dying is what we need to escape from, and then comes death, and it takes us away from it. And there's nothing but peace. An animal that's in extreme pain knows this. An animal instinctively knows this, that there's an end coming, that all this horror and pain will end, and they're just so glad for that. It's too bad that religion has made it so scary for humans. So scary for humans that we have a little 3-minute, 58-second video that challenges the fact that NDEs don't really mean there's life after death. 642 hits on that stupid little video. People are so scared of death, and it's just sad. And this is, to me, one of the worst poisons of all. When you look at what harm religion has done to our society and to us, this is the worst, one of the worst ones. What it has done to our perception of death. So anyway, I wanted this video to be lighthearted and funny, and it's not. It's gotten downright serious. Damn it, hate it when that happens. In my coffee, it's cold. Gonna have to go zap it in the microwave. My fake accent's kicking in now because I'm trying to rescue the moment, it's not supposed to be serious. Well, it turned out to be serious. Anyway, if you've been watching, thanks. Bye.